Last week, I finished Metroid Samus Returns for the very first time. So today, I'm going to sit down and rank all 5 of the mainline 2D Metroid games from the worst to the best. My name is James, and I started this channel simply because I love video games. If that sounds like you, please subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos just like this one. This is based off of my personal experience with each game, so my ranking is going to be different than your ranking, which is going to be different than anybody else's ranking. I also feel like I should probably point out that I have played each of these games exactly one time. So, when I replay them in the future, being much more familiar with Metroid games now, the ranking will probably shift around a little bit. With that out of the way, let's get started. Coming in last place is Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread was the very first 2D Metroid game that I played, because growing up, I had a GameCube and a Wii, so I had played Metroid Prime, and I had still never played a 2D Metroid game when this game came to Switch, and I very much feel like this game was the victim of me not really knowing what I was doing. I had a hard time traveling around the world. I found some of the platforming and items like to be tedious, and I just largely didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't understand how bosses work in Metroid games, and for pretty much every single boss in the game, I didn't have a good time playing, and the final boss, I just found it to be way too hard. Coming up next is Metroid Zero Mission. This is in 4th place for me. This was the second Metroid game that I played, and it wasn't available on Nintendo Switch Online at the time, and I didn't have it on Game Boy Advance. I actually played it on my iPad with an Xbox controller. I'll put a picture in here if I can find it. And overall, actually playing it on my iPad was pretty fun. What holds it back from being higher on the list for me was that the average bosses in the game, I still felt like they were kind of difficult. This still was only my second Metroid game, so I didn't fully understand really what I was doing yet. And then what really solidifies it as being in 4th place for me is that on my specific playthrough on that emulator, when I got to the section of the end of the game that wasn't in the original Metroid, I had such a hard time with it. I couldn't do it. And then I put the game down and came back to it like a day or two later, and all my progress was gone. So I never actually got to beat it. So that was really disappointing. That's why it ends up in 4th place for me. Coming in 3rd place is Metroid Fusion. This is another one that I played on an emulator on my iPad, and I actually started this one just a couple weeks or so after Zero Mission. And what puts this one a little bit higher up for me is partially that I didn't have the same save issues that I was actually able to play through the whole game. I don't remember this game being super difficult, which at the time made it more enjoyable for me. And then it was also much more, because of the way the game is kind of divided into sectors, it makes it a much more linear game. And as somebody who was really struggling to grasp the series, I do feel like that was better for me at the time. Before I give my final 2, please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to hit 300 subs by the end of this year. Coming in at number 2 is Super Metroid. And this one actually was very close to being in the top slot. What puts it in number 2 for me is that, so it was the 4th Metroid game that I played. I was actually able to play this one on Nintendo Switch Online. And so I think having the option to utilize save states if I wanted to, and actually get to play it on real Nintendo hardware and not on an iPad was obviously a plus for me. The combat and controls felt fluid and precise, and it seemed like the game would get difficult, but not get so difficult that I wasn't able to overcome it. What keeps it out of the top slot for me in this video is that there's a section at the end of the game when you're approaching the final boss. You have to like destroy these tubes on like the floor and on the ceiling, and there's like enemy projectiles flying all around you. And I had such a hard time just going from there to the boss, like going down this hallway, that I had a hard time with the boss, because going down that hallway would take out half of my health. I found that really frustrating, to the point where when I did play next game after this, I was constantly worried about getting stuck in a situation like that. And having that memory, I just couldn't really put it above number 2. Coming in at number 1 is Metroid Samus Returns. This one might be recency bias because I finished the game last week. However, I will say that I had an absolute blast playing this game. I wanted to take my DS with me everywhere I went so that I could continue playing it. When I wasn't playing it, I was thinking about playing it, and there was a point in the game that I was thinking about actually going through and collecting all of the items across the world, just because that's how much fun I was having with it. It's not without its flaws, which I go into those more in my full review of the game, actually, that went up last week. But I overall had a really fun time with it, and it made me excited for more Metroid games that are going to be coming hopefully in the future. And it made me want to revisit some of the games that are lower on this list with the higher amount of Metroid experience that I have now. So Samus Returns was an absolute blast to play. When I wasn't playing it, I was thinking about playing it, and it made me want to replay other games in the series. And for all those reasons, it comes in at number 1. In the comment section, please let me know how you would rank the games in the Metroid series. And until next time, the best way to keep up with me is on Twitter and on Instagram at James_Solar. Thanks, guys.